What is up, everybody? Let's see if anybody's coming in here on a Saturday morning. Not the best time to do a live, but somebody had asked me to do it, so they have something to listen to later on. So we'll get into a little bit of that. Tim Travels, what's up? 313, what's going on? Just want to talk about a couple real topics that came up. And then just some other shit. Dandrix, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. What's up? Oh man, yeah, you got that right. Maybe not as old as Tim Travels up there in the comments. But would have came in here a little bit earlier, but I was on the phone with Terry over at Tim Travels. Let me wait just a little longer, see if anybody comes in here. Otherwise, I'll just get on with what I'm going to talk about. Where is everybody at? If you happen to not be driving, you can put that in there. I am coming at you from the Loves in Paws Valley, Oklahoma, I-35, exit 70. Right across the highway from the Walmart distribution center, which I will be delivering at 4 p.m. today. Still don't have a pre-plan or anything like that, but I really am not concerned about that. Trucking through Conway, Arkansas. Yep, you know what? I turned down a load going to Arkansas before I got this load. As a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody and, I was up at the terminal and then somebody criticized me saying that trucking is not the career for me. If you start something, you need to finish it. You know what? Listen, all this little bullshit people talk about, in the meeting, they were just talking about drivers falling asleep and all this kind of stuff. So let me just put this into perspective. So I'm at the terminal, I get a load sent to me. Or they call me and say, hey, we got a load going to Lebanon, Indiana. Do you want it? And right before I was about to say yeah, he's like, oh, never mind, that just got taken by the guy next to me. So we have a load going to Madera, California. I really wasn't too excited about that, but I was like, you know what, I'll go ahead and take it. She's like, all right, I'll put it on you. Load should be here in like 3 hours. Then I get a message back saying that that load's going to require a team. I'm going to pull you off that. I still got you on the list, whatever. I'm like, cool. I'm chilling, right? Then I get a load that's going to, I forget where it was going to in Arkansas. Man, I wish I could remember where it was going to. Searcy, Arkansas. If anybody knows where Prime Inc. is in Springfield, Missouri, the route to get to Searcy, Arkansas, so it's a 200-mile load. I didn't even ask what it paid, and that didn't matter. The direct way to get there would be going over I-65, so you're going 65 south, and you're fucking with all them Ozark Mountains and all that, and then you're getting on some state highway. Anybody that's driven it knows. So anytime I'm going that way, for example, if I'm going to Memphis or something like that, I take I-44 to 49 and then cut down to 40 and then come across that way. In this case, it's going to add about 80 miles to a 200-mile load. I was like, no, I'm not interested in that. So then I got this, I'm kind of rambling, but then I got this load that, actually I'm going out of order, but I'm going to finish this story. Then I get this load going to Paws Valley, Oklahoma, which I love going to Paws Valley, Oklahoma, not because it's a great load or anything, but there's always parking. There's a washout 24 hours nearby, so just convenient. But they're like, but you got to drop off this local load. And I was like, come on, man. So yesterday morning, I had to drop off this like 8-mile load in Springfield, drop that off. Luckily, it was fast. It was like a 30-minute unload. and then go pick up at Kraft. But anyway, in the meantime, before some of this happened, or the first load I got was leaving the terminal going to Terrell, Texas. This is the load that somebody criticized me on, saying that trucking's not my career. First of all, I wouldn't consider trucking a career personally, but anyway, trucking's not your career and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, God damn, I think the average trucker that's been trucking for 7 years would probably have to look at this as somewhat successful. But anyway, need I digress. I got criticized for picking up a load that just went through the trailer shop or just went through inbound, had a bunch of unnecessary shit going to it, and then they fucked it up. I'm like 50 miles down the road, and the reefer just shuts off, is stalling, all this kind of stuff, and they're just like, bring it back. I'm not staying on that fucking load. And I was getting criticized for starting something and not finishing it. Well, first of all, if the trailer comes back to Prime, I don't know if it's going to take 15 minutes or 10 hours to get the trailer back. They want to talk about, and this was nobody at Prime. This was just like some average person commenting on my video. But, when you want to talk about drivers falling asleep and flipping trucks and doing all this kind of stuff, you know what? That trailer comes back. I've already been up all day. Now, I'm good for 36 hours. I will give myself that. So a lot of times when people talk about not, like driving tired and all that kind of stuff, that really doesn't happen to me. I can think of 2 times in 7 years I've driven where I got tired. But sometimes I'm a firm believer in things finish the way they start. Cut my losses. I could think of it in my 2 previous, if you want to call them careers, car sales in the 90s. If I started off with a client and that situation was fucked up to begin with, it always finished that way. Definitely in the mortgage industry. If you start off on a loan, sometimes you just got to cut your losses early. So anyway, I got criticized for that. So, man, sometimes I just wish that I just knew who was criticizing me. It'd be easy if it was somebody that, if I knew what their track record was or history or something like that. But anyway, enough of that. Let me get to these comments and I'll get back into some other shit that just is on my mind. All right, let's see. Broke down at home in the mean streets of Kalamazoo. I like delivering to that, whatever it is we have over there, the dropping hooks always over there. Can never get a trailer, but I do like going out there. Bragging about being on the road for 40 years as a cell phone. Drive a truck if you like it, but don't badmouth people that don't care that much. Absolutely. So anyway, I took some heat on that, right? Or not heat. It's just a random comment. And, everybody that has a YouTube channel, you could have been driving for 3 years, made $300,000 a year, driving a paid off truck, got a bunch of money in the bank, and there's always going to be somebody out there that's doing less shit than you, criticizing what you do. That is one thing. That I do know about this. Crushing, I'm just going to say crushing. It was Trucker Todd's troll account. I don't think that would be something that he says. I don't think that he's somebody that trolls anybody, but I still have bad taste in my mouth when he gave out some wrong information and then tried to sun me and talk down to me like I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about the company that I worked at. That's the only reason I lit him up. And he's about to win me $50 more. So I ain't got nothing bad to say about him. I'll be spending that money here in about 2 more months. And I'm actually betting on him this time. But that's beside the point. The other thing I want to talk about is trainers in trucking. I've had the opportunity to talk to 2 students. One that got the CDL, and doing TNT right now. And another one that had their CDL but needed to do, I don't want to get too specific about it. So I'm just going to say this. If your student is hearing you complain about money, then you're training for the wrong reason. Now, I'm not saying that money's not a factor and you can't make a bunch of money training, but if the way you train a student or trainee or whatever you want to call them is based on how much money you have, then that's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? That shouldn't even factor into any equations. I'm hearing about drivers that, this is pissing me off. Hearing about a PSD student that's not getting paid shit right now, that trainer is not only not stopping to take showers when there's plenty of time to take showers, but making them pay for their own showers when you got credits and shit. If you're a train, I'm not even going to criticize anybody else. When I was training, first thing I told my trainees, not the first thing, but one of the things I told my trainees, get all your fuel cards, TA, Loves, Flying J, maybe AmBest, whatever. And when it's your time to fuel, you get the credits, you get the points, and you're responsible for your own showers. If you want to stop and take a shower, all you gotta do is stop at a truck stop. If you need help backing up or whatever, I'll do all that, or make sure everything's fine. But you're in control of it because you got your credits and everything. But when I'm hearing about motherfuckers that are training people that are making students pay for their own showers, especially in PSD when they ain't making no money, that's a fucking problem. 313, I figured you'd be hanging with Todd at Matt's. Matt's is the last place in the world I would ever fucking go. Why am I gonna want to go hang? You would never, ever, ever in a million years see me hang out at no place like that. So anyway, you hear about this, and that in that situation, there's more in that situation I could deal with, but I'm just going to talk about maybe I will talk about this in the future, but I just don't want to talk about the specifics of that right now. Then I'm listening to another trainee, and the student, this is TNT, and the trainer's like pushing and pushing, and getting mad when this particular driver stops and needs to sleep and take a break or whatever. And I'm just like, one thing I did not fuck around with when I was training is, if you get sleepy, pull this fucking truck over, because chances are I at least have 45 minutes, an hour, whatever on my clock. I could split it or do whatever, we probably, because I run ahead of everything, unless it's just a super tight load, there's a chance to stop. And I was always afraid of somebody falling asleep, and that was every time before I shut these curtains when I was training somebody, is you got one job, let's not kill me. Every fucking time. But so anyway, I will speak a little bit on this one, so the trainer's pushing and pushing and saying we don't have time to stop and all this kind of shit, which is a fucking lie. And the irony of this situation is the trainer fucking fell asleep and luckily didn't roll the truck, but caused a lot of damage to the truck. And it's just like another situation where trainers talking about the fucking money. It's I don't get it. And the thing about it, especially in one of these circumstances, in all circumstances, you as a trainer potentially can affect the rest of somebody's trucking career. Meaning, There's a situation that I know about where a driver didn't get taught shit, right? And man, I wish I could get a little bit deeper. Didn't get taught shit. Then basically self-snitched on their self, proving that they didn't do shit, and then blaming it on, oh, we're just running, and we have to get this load here and we have to get this load there. But meanwhile, they're only driving eight hours a day, when if the load was really that tight, the student could drive 8 hours or 6 hours. Anyway, the truck could run 14 hours, but they aren't doing that. If the load is that tight, then you can do that. But anyway, a trainer can affect, like, you are really putting somebody's life, I mean, like physical life in jeopardy, and potentially the entire trucking career, just based on what you fucking do. And I don't think people take that. I don't think enough people take that part of it seriously. All right. Tim Travels, I never made a trainee pay for a shower. I always covered it, even at DM Bowman. Absolutely. I had a guy jump out of a training first load, come up to me and ask me how to slide the tandems. The quality of trainer at Prime has gone down a little bit, I expect. I've had several people. As a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with somebody on the phone that said basically the same thing. How much TNT training for somebody who has not driven in nearly 10 years? How many miles would they have to do? At least 30,000 miles at Prime. Now, is that necessary? Probably not. But when my trainer, the guy that trained me, he left Prime. He worked at Walmart as a yard dog. When he came back to Prime, he had to do 30,000 miles. So I did those 30,000 miles with him. Mr. Briggs, how many? I think it's 30,000 miles right now, Biggs, but I'm not 100% sure. You know, and I look back at the training, you know, my first trainer, and I've mentioned this a couple times, and I'll talk about my experience again, because luckily I was in a situation where I wasn't gonna, I could do what I want, or not, I could do what I wanted to do. Regardless of what happened with this trainer, I was gonna be okay. But I get my first trainer, and I'm not gonna get too much into the details, because there's a lot of detail that can go in this, but he picks me up at the Flying J in Denver. You know, I'm loading my shit in the truck, which was only like 2 duffel bags full of shit. And the truck, the inside of the truck, like, you look like you could write your name on every surface of the truck. So I'm like, you know what, I could thug it out. You know what I mean? I've been in worse situations, not necessarily, you know, military situation, shit like that. I could thug it out, whatever. So basically, from as soon as we get on the truck, he might have spent 10 minutes on the truck. Now, I'm trying to navigate through this Flying J in Denver as a brand new driver who really didn't drive all that much in training. I did most of it on the pad in Salt Lake City, but he basically sits there 15 minutes. I don't know how to go through scales. I don't know how to do shit. I don't know how to use Jake brakes, nothing. And we're coming up on a scale, and he's back here. He's not sleeping. He's just laying down. And I like ask him, hey, there's a scale coming up. What do I got to do? And he's like, you know, he starts like going off about, you know, me not knowing shit and all this stuff. And at the time, the adrenaline's going. I really don't think about it. It goes over my head. Anyway, let me just break this down. So anyway, we don't have a load. The fleet manager apparently just said, drive out to this area. So we drive out there, kind of by, what's that Peterbilt dealership in Kansas? Or, yeah, Kansas on 70. Anyway, we're out in that area. So his truck breaks down. So we don't get a load for a while. Truck's got to go in the shop and everything. But in the meantime, we go to get something to eat. I pay for the fucking food, right? How many students have paid for the trainer's food, right? So I pay for all that shit. We do everything goes fine for a while, but I say goddamn a lot. This motherfucker said goddamn more than I do. And he was always talking down to me, all this kind of shit. And this is kind of a summarized version. At some point we get out in the hills and I'm thinking it was West Virginia somewhere, something like that. And I literally am thinking I'm not going to be able to drive a truck. I can't handle this shit, right? Like my nerves are killing me. So finally I pull over and I just say, you know what, I can't do this. So he goes off about that and everything. And mind you, we were way ahead on this load. We could have stopped where I was at, whatever. And it wasn't so much that I wouldn't have been able to do it, but I didn't know how to use no Jake brakes, anything like that. Like I was taught nothing up to this point. He's talking down to me this whole time, all this shit. Anyway, let's fast forward. And it's way more detailed than this. So we finally get to this Walmart DC. And I'm like, fuck it. Let me just go inside and hang out in the driver lounge just to get away from this motherfucker. So I go inside to the driver's lounge. And I come back out to the truck, and there's a bag sitting on the floor of the passenger seat. So before this. The only reason I knew that you weren't supposed to get to a Walmart more than an hour early was because I've been watching YouTube videos. So we get out near this Walmart, and I kind of pull into this like little business area, whatever, and I just park on the side of the road. So I'm sitting there for a while, and I'm just like, man, should I wake this guy up? Because like, I'm the type of person, I could just wake up in a heartbeat, like instantly, and be ready to do whatever. But I know that every time I've woke this guy up, like when it's time for him to drive or whatever, he's always fucking grumpy. And I'm like, man, should I wake this motherfucker up? So I sit there a while, hoping he's going to wake up on his own. He doesn't. So I wake him up and I'm like, hey, we're at the Walmart. And, you know, I didn't tell him I was at this other area. Hey, we're at the Walmart. He's like, what time is it? And I say, it's like 0700. God damn it. Our appointment's not till like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And I said, no, I'm not parked there. I'm parked across the street. But he started yelling right off the bat before he even understood what I was doing. So anyway, we get to this Walmart. I go inside, come back out. The bag's on the floor. I don't know what's in the bag. I just move it to the side or whatever. And he's like, hey, where's that bag or whatever? And I'm like, I said it like here, whatever. He's like, oh man, I just shit in that bag. That's because I'd always said I was going to do more than 30,000 miles on a truck. As soon as he said that, I was like, you know what? I can't do 30,000 miles with people shitting in bags and all this kind of stuff. Now, it was a good trash bag. I will give it that. It was like the Flex trash bags that, you know, you could like, you can't even poke a hole through. So I know it was a good bag, but that's beside the point. So I'm like, fuck it. I don't even know if I'm be able to get this 30,000 miles out of the way, but I'm definitely not doing more than 30,000 miles. So anyway, there's a lot of shit I'm missing in this. This is like 7 years ago at this point. So we end up getting, at some point, to this Tyson in Arkansas. I think it was the Rogers. I don't remember which one it is. But anyway, we're getting loaded. I'm supposed to be driving next, so I'm in the driver's seat. We're almost done loaded. Well, we are done loaded. Yard guy comes and says, hey, we got you loaded. Can you just pull up and kind of park along that curve over there? We'll get your paperwork in a second. So I go to start the truck. The air had leaked out of the airbag. So, you know, it's like you need to air the truck up first. So in Salt Lake City, when we were on the pad, if the air got low, you just stepped on the fuel a little bit and get the air compressor running faster and get it up. So I started doing that, and this guy's like sitting back here, what the hell are you doing? And I was like cool at the time. I was like, well, you know, the guy wants us to pull up here. The air was low and blah, blah, blah. And he's like saying, see, that's why I don't like getting people from Salt Lake or from that didn't do on the road training, because they don't know what the hell they're doing, and you don't need to do this and you don't need to do that. And finally I was just like, you know what, and I said it just like this: if I'm doing something that you don't fucking like, it's either because I don't know any better or, you know, whatever. And apparently that kind of triggered him or whatever. And then he started like going off and talking about all this shit. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm gonna talk to the dispatch, or I'm gonna talk to our fleet manager, and, you know, get you kicked off. Or no, actually that came after. So I kind of lit him up after that. And he when I lit him up, he didn't kind of know what to say. He's like, like he was searching for his words, but I was tearing his ass up. And he's like, the last person to talk to me like this, I let off on the side of the road. And I said, motherfucker, you could let me off on the side of the road in India, and I'm going to be home in 4 days. And I'd already known that he was going through some financial shit again. Somebody training just for the money and worried about the money. So I was like, listen, I'm not like your fucking broke ass out here. Let me off wherever you want. I'm going to be home in fucking 4 days. And he's like, I'm called fleet manager. So he didn't know at the time. Man, listen, when I did my training in Salt Lake City, I failed my drive test because doing shit that you do every day, you're coming up on a yellow light, you could either slam on the brakes or you could just go through it. Still was going to be a legal turn. The inspector basically told me, you know what, that was the right thing to do, but not necessarily on a CDL exam. We got all these people from Utah following us around, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, so that was that. When I failed my test, since I didn't trifecta, I went and got three $50 gift cards and gave them to all the trainers that were out there training on the pad. Had a good, you know, bought some gag gifts for them, bought them a megaphone, because, you know, I had a good relationship with them. So I called the trainer out there. So if you guys tested out of Salt Lake City, I called Tim, the guy that's the CDL examiner out there now. Like, hey, here's what's going on. What's up? I was talking to a few other people. What's up? So he knew that I knew a lot of people, and I wasn't fucking worried about it. So at some point, I think he realized that I wasn't going to be the one to fuck with. So well, actually, so this is a little bit later. That was a little bit later. So anyway, he calls the fleet manager, has that conversation. They're like, all right, just come back to the terminal. So a little bit later, he gets a call, and he's like, hey man, we got this load, it's paying all the money, you know, can you guys drop this load off and then bring the truck back, or then come back to the terminal? It was going to require me to drive. So the trainer comes to me and he's like, hey man, like I was doing him a favor. Hey man, or like he was doing me a favor. Hey man, James wants to know if we could do this load and stuff like that. And I was like, listen, this is all business. If it's going to help you out, you know, I'll go ahead and do it. He's like, help me out? You're the one that needs the help. I already have my CDL and I already know what I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, see, right there, your dumb ass is too fucking stupid to know when to shut your fucking mouth. I was like, you know what, take me back to the fucking terminal. So get back to the terminal. Wait, hold on. Let me see if this is my APU out here screaming. No. This is when I thought I was going to have to check my fleet manager real quick. So I get out to the terminal, or I get to the campus inn. They're like, we don't have any rooms. Go over there and stay at the Oasis. I was like, thank you. So anyway, I'm staying at the Oasis. Call my fleet manager the next day. And he's like, oh, wait, before this. So anyway, after we're going back to the terminal, or after I say fuck you, get me back to the terminal, I'm calling all these people. He's driving, so he's hearing me back here on the phone. I got the curtains open, so he's hearing everything. Damn, is that my view? No. So now he knows he might have fucked with the wrong person. So he's like, hey, man, I just got a lot of stuff going on at home, and, you know, money and this and that. And, you know, I'm just going to tell the fleet manager that I'm not going to say you did anything wrong. I'm just going to say that it was like a personality conflict. I was like, all right, you know, say whatever you want. I don't really care. You know what I mean? Because at that point I was like, if I don't work at Prime, I don't work at Prime. It ain't like I'm out here stressing. I'm not on my last dollar, no shit like that. So he started crying on my shoulder like I was Oprah, you know, telling me all this stuff that's going on. So anyway, that was before this. So I get dropped off at the terminal. I call in the next day, and my fleet manager's like, so what happened? He said it just like that. So what happened? So I think he's trying to sound a little slick right now. So I was like, you know what? I'll be right down. Hopped my ass on that fucking shuttle, went down there, and he's like, I think the tone changed a little bit. It's like, so what happened? You know, what happened or whatever? And I was like, well, what did he say? And he's like, well, he just said it was a personality conflict or something like that. And I said, all right, I'm good with that. So he's like, all right, just hang out and wait for another trainer to call. And that's when I got my boy. See, that right there. And I got with another bad trainer. I could have been out of trucking or at another company or whatever, period. It just happened to be that I got with the right trainer that second time, to where I didn't just say, you know what, fuck all y'all, I'm out. And I don't think that enough trainers realize how much they can affect what goes on with other people. Now, I don't know if my old trainer's still there. I need to ask. I haven't asked about him in a while, but I'd see him up at the terminal every now and then, and never really said anything to him. But the mattress, man, like, listen, how you gonna be having somebody come in your truck? A mattress is like $100, right? How are you gonna let somebody come into your truck and the mattress is like, it's like all these odd colors and stains, and like the fabrics, like, you know, like when, like, it looks all frayed and shit. Ugh. Anyway, it was horrible. All right, Tyree, every time you tell this story is funny as hell. I wish I could remember more of the details about that story. Like I said, it's been 7 years, and it was a lot more than that. Like, every little thing, he was always fucking like, God damn it. And I, you know, as a new person, you don't know how truck stops are supposed to, like, you don't understand the natural flow of a truck stop. It could be as simple as me saying, what's the best way to leave out of this truck stop or whatever, and he would fucking like make a big deal of it. As a matter of fact, I do remember paying for my own shower too in Dodge City, Kansas. Not that I couldn't pay for it, but why wouldn't it? And I don't remember him ever taking a shower. I think I was on that truck for maybe 6 days, 5 days. All right, Biggs. Okay, good. Is you with Prime Inc.? Your student has his own truck. Is freight picking up at Prime? Freight seems to be picking up at Prime. I talked to a lot of people, right? I know of somebody that just had a $9,000 a week. I heard of a couple people in that 7,000 range, and then a couple people in that 5 range, you know, mid 5, stuff like that. Your student has his own truck. the last time I trained an actual student, a real like student, I don't think any of them I've trained are still at prime, because I mean it's been a while since I actually had a student. I did contact my trainer that I trained last summer because I wanted to see if he could train this person, but I don't think that person is a fan of being in, having people smoking Black and Miles around him. So anyway, we had that conversation this morning. 313, my trainer would leave when he was done with his shift and come back drunk. See, we didn't really see, that doesn't make sense. I've heard that before as well. Slowpoke trucking. I guess I'm a trainer at Prime. Work is picking up good. Classes are pretty heavy these days, 20 to 25 students 2 times a week. Biggs, okay, do you have a student now? No, I don't train anymore. I did it last summer as I paid my trainer back to train me since he had to go back through and do more miles, but that was just him. All right, Roderick, too funny. Man, I wish I could remember some other shit about that. And listen, one thing I can say about that, because I did not know one thing I did if I had a student was I would set my alarm clock. If I knew that we were going to be going through a big city or a city I knew would create challenges, if I knew that was 2 hours away, if I was in the bunk, I'd set my alarm for 2 hours and I'd be up front, kind of teaching them through that if necessary. Same thing about certain mountains and stuff like that until they understood it. I'm driving through the West Virginia mountains, don't know how to use fucking Jake brakes properly, and this motherfucker's back here asleep and everything. I literally thought when I parked that truck, I thought I had to rationalize, am I going to be able to drive and do this shit? And I slept on it that night and I said, you know what? If I'm not going to drive a truck anyway, why does it matter if I run this shit into the side of a mountain? It's like, you know what? I'm going to trust the truck. If these trucks in front of me are holding that curve or doing whatever, then I got to assume that I'm going to be able to hold that curve too. So I just let it rip. And it was kind of like, you know what, if I'm not going to drive a truck, I might as well go out guns blazing. And I mentioned all this shit in old videos and stuff like that. I might re-upload some of those old videos where I was having, having a challenging time because, a lot of people see drivers that have been driving, 2 years, 3 years, whatever plus, and they don't realize that most drivers, there are some super truckers out there, most drivers felt extremely uncomfortable when they first got out on the road. All right. Trucker Q, Tim Travels, you also left your trainee at the travel stop too. Listen, there's one thing I'm serious about, and there I would have got fired. There are 2 times that I may have got fired. If I tell somebody to be in a truck at a certain time, I may have got fired on that one. I don't know if I would have left if there was time on a load, but there was somebody driving one of my trucks that was training. They were in Las Vegas. There was a FedEx load that needed to be picked up, and the student was like not back at the truck and saying they weren't going to drive because they'd already done their 30,000 miles. I probably would have left. I would have been fired on that one. So anyway, Mr. Biggs, how long does it take to get 30,000 miles? I always counted on roughly 5,000 miles a week was kind of the clip that I was usually going at. So let's say 6 to 7, 8 weeks was usually what I was at. My last student got an extra 10 because he backed into a trailer and damaged my sleeper. the most dangerous part about training, and I don't think, see, everybody at Prime is good about giving all these things, like all this advice that ain't been on no fucking truck. That's one thing I will say that irritates the absolute shit out of me. When students hit 30,000 miles, unless, like me, I wasn't trying to get off my trainer's truck. But a lot of times when people hit that 30,000 miles, there's a natural lack of attention that begins to happen. And to me, that's the most dangerous point as a trainer, is when your student has over 30,000 miles and they don't have like a plan to get them back to the terminal. And I was more happy to get that training over than my trainees were. And as a matter of fact, the last time I hit 30,000 miles, because they would have just had us keep running. I was like, you know what? I got to get my truck in the shop. I need to get to Springfield. So I knew that, and this was my last trainer, so he knew how to drive and all that. We were 600 miles away from the terminal. I think he needed 450 miles to get his 30,000. Man, I was like, I need to get to the terminal and get my truck in the shop. Man, we walked in, or got to the terminal. This was like on a Saturday or a Sunday or something like that. Walked in Monday morning like, what's up? You know what I mean? We're here. Anyway. So we kind of dictated that. All right. So yeah, no students right here. Jeremy Griggs, he was a trainer for 8 years. I don't know who you're talking about. Showers were never a problem for me in training. We just showered together, but he made me use my own body wash. I'll tell you what's funny is there was a time, I can still remember the pilot we were at. We were in the pilot on I-80 right when you get into Nebraska. So we're going to go take a shower. And my trainer, this is back before everybody was using apps and everything. So we go up to the cashier, and my trainer's like, he's kind of got that country kind of, he's like, yeah, can I get a team shower? And I was like, yeah, but we only need one code. Anyway, the look he gave me was hilarious. But anyway, I heard a new driver coming to Prime have to do 150,000 miles in TNT is Tiger Woods. Man, Tiger Woods, I tell you what, the downfall is remarkable. All right, Slowpoke is in Ohio right now, won't be back till June. All right, Tyree, my trainer passed away after he trained. We had so much fun together. Me, I actually do miss driving with my last trainer. And listen, I spent from late April to late November on my trainer's truck. Then when I came back and we'll call it train him, we spent, I don't know how long with him, but I do kind of miss that. And what I really miss is when I'm about ready to go blow out that trailer and he's like, hey, you don't got to worry about that, boss man. I'm like, yeah. So that was always good there. Biggs, Mr. Biggs coming back to Prime. So yeah. And getting back to some of this criticism about me bringing that load back to the terminal. Again, Slime Pack did a video where her load wasn't ready, kept not being ready. Everybody's like, well, just make sure you get plenty of sleep. You got people that are in certain departments, let's just call it fitness department and stuff, talking about managing sleep. Listen, it's not hard to manage sleep if your ass is going to bed at 10 o'clock every night. You know what I mean? Anyway, apparently we've had a couple rollovers, people falling asleep, and These are the situations where people fall asleep. Not only are you flipping your clock, but now we're 24 hours past the drop dead time. You don't know if the load's going to be ready in, 15 minutes or 15 hours, and you're just expected to run the load, but you can't get rid of the load. Because there have been times I was so frustrated, I was like, get me off the load. Well, we can't do that. Then in the meeting, somebody said, well, if you can't run the load, or if you can't get it there on time because you need to go to sleep, is that a service failure? Well, yeah, that'd be a service failure. You know what? Then just don't say, like, again, I just wish that people understood what really goes on out here. And if you drove, like, listen, some people that work inside at Prime have drove, and just like I can't remember the story I had with my trainer going back 7 years, just because you drove 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you forgot about some of this. Like, it's like me thinking about the Marine Corps. I forget about all the bullshit or forgot about all that stuff. All I think about is the good time. Again, I think just like we got to take a safety, or they want us to take a safety class every year, I think it would be good for every year, fleet manager got to get on a truck for a week, or a logs advisor. I'm getting so many, listen, either we're doing good on logs or we're not. Like, I'm getting so many messages from logs advisor talking about we're getting too many violations for this. In the same breath, I'm hearing that, we haven't got, like, it's like, you know what, let me just send this out every week, even if it's not happening, even if this issue's not happening. I don't know. Some of this stuff is just frustrating because the people with the best advice are the ones with the least experience. Man. All right, Tim Travels. People so worried about the load you brought back should have run it for themselves. Listen, that, fortunately, and I'm not in a position where I have to take loads or deny loads based on how much money it makes or doesn't make, or, a lot of it is just on how I feel about a certain load. And listen, I don't turn down a lot of loads. I think sometimes I say this shit and people think I'm turning down all these loads. I barely turn down loads. But I don't know if it's the right way for me to say this, but I kind of started doing it on my own terms. Like, and that took a lot of stress off of me. Like, for example, when I say doing it on my own terms, if I'm in an area I don't like, let's just say we're in the Northeast, Connecticut, some Boston, some shit like that, I send a message and I say, hey, can I get a pre-plan after this load so I have somewhere to go? Then whatever they say, I say, when I'm done with this load, I'm headed south on 95 or whatever it is to this area. I don't plan on coming back. By me taking control of it, it takes a lot less stress off me. I'm able to plan out what I'm going to do a little bit better. Like, I can't, it's not that I feel like I've put in my dues or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But by taking more control over the situation, and it allows me to be more effective. I don't know if that's saying it right or not. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's not. All right. Anyway, I'll get back to that. If reefer loads, sleep time is all over the place. Absolutely. So our sleep schedule is all over the place. And, in the meeting, they were saying, I'm looking at the video. And another thing, weren't the cameras supposed to be stopping all this shit? You know what I mean? Watching the video and watching somebody fall asleep, and all you want to do is yell at somebody like, wake up or pull over or whatever. So this motherfucker just left a big ass bag of trash. I just saw him walk back there, set it back down there. There's trash cans like right next to my truck back here. That pisses me off. But I don't think it's malicious. Okay, I don't think that people at Prime, whether it's safety, leadership, fleet managers, logs people, I don't think it's malicious. I absolutely think it's just ignorance to what it's like out here. Like, you got people talking about sleep schedules that are in driver health and fitness. Like, come on. Get out here and really understand what it's like. Get out here and understand, like in this load here, like I said, I'm good for 36 hours minimum, maybe more going into the daytime. But I slept last night, I wake up, I deliver at 4 o'clock, I'm gonna have a full clock. They could potentially give me a load where I need to run out another 11 hours with no sleep. They don't see that shit. They don't. Now, luckily, I could fall asleep on a dime if I had to. But they don't understand. Like, I think they know it, but they don't understand how that affects anybody. So, all right, Slowpoke says a lot about students' character when they ask to pull down load locks or blow out the trailers. I think that, when me and my trainer were doing his thing together, he was just appreciative that, first of all, I did everybody a favor. Because chances are the person at Prime that was going to train my trainer when he was going back through probably wouldn't have had as much experience as him and probably not be able to back as good as him, all that stuff. So it would put them in an awkward situation. We already had a good rapport together, and I think he just did whatever it could be to make my life easier. So that was excellent. Six Semper Tyrannis, what's up? My FM suggested to my FM get some of them on the road, and was told that wouldn't work even if they tried. I'm so serious. Here's how serious I am about it. And I'm not sure I would do it with everybody if I was actually having to pay for it. But if a fleet manager wanted to get on the road for a week on my truck, I would pay out of pocket whatever they make a week, minus taxes. So they could get on my truck, I'd pay them. And I'm serious about that. If anybody happens to be watching, I don't think anybody at Prime checks they might watch some of my videos. I don't think they check my lives like that. But if anybody was and they think I'm bluffing, they can come on and I'd fucking pay for it. I'm 100% serious about that. All right, I learned from my mistakes. All right. All right, Biggs, Mr. Briggs. You already have your own truck at Prime. Somebody like you with all that experience is surprising you still with Prime, but it's all good. Prime is a mega company when it comes to freight. there's several reasons why I'm at Prime, and I just did a video about that, about why Prime works for me. And there were 3 things that I didn't bring up in that video. One was detention. I talked to a lot of people that pull off the spot market, and I've got more detention in 1 week than some of them have got in an entire year. Detention. Man, I forget what the 3 things were. I had them written down. Oh, you know what? I do have them written down. And these are things that were not in my last video, unless I deleted them, because I was going to do another video about it. God damn it. No, detention. I like detention more than the actual money per load. So detention, and they will find, another thing I like is the freight network is so big that they will find a load to match your hours. So you don't have to worry about finger fucking your loads or, you know, all that kind of stuff. If you got 3, I talked to somebody about 2.5 weeks ago, and they were like me. They actually got pissed off when they had 3 hours left on their clock, and they thought they were about to relax and start at 10, and they got a load to go pick up like right away. So they're good at matching loads with your hours. And another thing that I didn't mention in that was dropping hooks. Personally, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good reason to, or a good thing that Prime has. Personally, I'd rather back my ass up into a dock than fuck around with some of these, like dropping hooks at cold storages, all that, great. Dropping hooks at some of these meat plants and not it. I'd rather just not. But those are 3 things I didn't bring up. But Prime works for me because it's low stress. I'll take low stress over money. And people think I'm lying about it and all this shit. When I say there's almost no amount of money that will want me to do certain things. And I talked to a lot of people on the phone. They're like, you know what, I got this load and I don't really like it, but it paid this much. And I'll do it because I'd like my fleet manager to be under as little stress as possible. So sometimes I do loads that I don't want to do, but I've never said I'm taking this load because of the money. It's because of the relationship. And I remember coming off of home time, because I always say the way you start a run is the way the run's finished. Whether it's a single load like the one I brought back to the terminal, or when I'm coming off of home time, picking up Fort Morgan in Colorado, that's great. Going all the way to somewhere, 3 stops in New Jersey or some shit like that. No, it's 2 stops. And I said, hey, no, I don't want that load. And it was paying, I forgot how many miles it was, but told my fleet manager I didn't want it. And he's like, okay, I'll turn down this $4,800 load going 1,400 miles, whatever it was. And I was like, much appreciated. As soon as I start thinking about money and doing things for money, usually that's putting me, like, I'd rather make less money and have less stress. So anyway, that's one reason, you know, I forgot my goddamn point now. Damn, I forgot my point. Prime just works for me, okay? Like, I could work anywhere at this point. I could do the whole, like, my personality would not work with having an authority and all that kind of shit. I'm pretty much a point and shoot type of person. Me dealing with all that minutia and all that, like I mentioned in one of my last videos, if you ask me how much money I spent in tolls last week or any week, or fuel or some of this, I don't even look at that shit. For example, I'll look at my settlement. Let's say I have a $6,000 of the truck. First thing I'll do is cut that in half. Boom, $3,000. Then I'll add $1,200, $1,300 of that. That's how much my pay should be. Scroll down to the bottom. I'm within $200 or $300 of that. I'm done looking. I'm not out here trying to, figure out how much I'm spending. Like, the shit that I have no control over, I don't even worry about it. If I got a truck in the shop, I don't even look at the invoice. You know what I'm saying? Maybe after it's paid, I'll look, or if it's more than I would have thought. But I don't even listen. I'm straight to the bottom line. I ain't worried about it. So that's one of the things I like about Prime. It's like a no-brainer. Let's just put it that way. It allows me to not think about anything. My truck breaks down, I handle it on the app. I like it, but I hate it in ways because it's a starter company. It treats everybody like, they've been driving for 3.5 weeks, but I love it because it's so easy. Like, I don't have to think about a lot of things that I'd have to think about before. All right, anyway, I think all right, Roderick, these long and joyful videos are going on my replay list. Well, appreciate it. Who's your manager? His name is James. I don't want to give too much more than that. I think I remember that video about why you still at Prime. Yeah, and the fuel discount. My God, the fuel surcharge and the discounts. Richie Rich had put out a video where he was talking about the price of fuel going up and how it's. Listen, I disagreed with his take on that video because I don't know if he was specifically talking about owner-operators. He was trying to throw some of the Prime and the fuel surcharge and all that kind of stuff in it. But I definitely disagreed with that statement on that. So the fuel discounts and the surcharge, another reason why I'm exactly happy. Hey, 412's in the house. He's going to be ponying up another $50 here real quick on a bet. Funny thing about him, man, he went to go deliver a load up in West Virginia, and they gave him the wrong address, and he ended up late because he ended up running into a marathon. And I don't mean a marathon. It was probably a 5K, like a bunch of runners that had the roads all blocked off and everything. So he went through all that fun today. Okay, D Trucking. Why would you rather live unload than drop and hook? You're speaking Chinese. Because they're more predictable, man. Like, if I know a drop and hook's gonna be ready, that's one thing. But let's put it this way. I'm gonna separate meat or protein places from everybody else. So meat and protein places, chicken, whatever, beef. For example, I just came off of home time. Boom. Drop dead time. No detention on this load either. Was 10 p.m. I didn't get out of there till 10 a.m. the next day. Again, they want to talk about sleep. I don't know if the load's going to be ready in 5 minutes or 15 hours. So you really can't sleep all that well. So why don't I like meat plant dropping hooks? Fort Morgan is different than all of, or most of them. There's a couple meat plants that aren't that bad, but you go to the ones that are all muddy and all that shit, you're damaging your equipment just driving through the place. The trailers are 4 inches apart. The loads are never on time, all that kind of stuff. That's a different kind of. So let me put it this way. I don't like protein dropping hooks. Cold storage dropping hooks, different story. Those are fine because they're predictable. They're more predictable. So I'll qualify my statement on the dropping hooks with that. Again, all these drivers falling asleep, I can almost guarantee you that I know of one rollover that killed a driver. I almost guarantee you. Now, we didn't have cameras back then, so we don't know if he did something stupid or he just fell asleep. I guarantee you that the load was probably late. He had probably been up waiting for the load and drove the load tired. So, okay, If I'm going to a cold storage, great. Usually load's gonna be ready on time, all that kind of stuff. At least if it's not ready, it's not gonna be the next day or something like that. And again, I think some of these protein plants are just totally disrespectful. Like some of these potholes at some of these places, like it's not hard to put a bunch of rocks in a pothole or something like that. But hey, it's your equipment you're fucking up in there, right? All right, dude's gonna come at Terry. Yeah, me and Terry just spoke about his being in retirement and everything, and he's loving not driving trucks right now. That's what I'm talking about. Again, 412. How many weeks we got or months we got? 2 more months until I have another $50 deposited into my account. All right, I've only been burned once on a favor from my FM, but he always comes through after we talk about it, especially when I'm in the Northeast. I get a run out in a hurry. I am loyal to my fleet manager. That's what I'm going to say. So any negative shit or I got to say about, listen, I will do. There's certain things I don't like doing that if he needs it done, I will do it. Again, like I said, I don't turn down a bunch of loads. There have been loads where I'm like, you know what, I don't really like that load. And, you know, if you can't find, I'll do it if you need it. And he's like, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Because that is a relationship that I want to keep as smooth as possible. You know, you have all these people out here, Facebook groups, you know, whatever, talking about, I'm going to fire my fleet manager and, you know, talking all crazy to their fleet manager. Listen, I'm as calm. Like, I never, ever, ever get upset for the most part. When I do get upset, he knows it's like, if I'm barking, it's for a reason. I'm not one of these bark is louder than the bite or whatever. If I'm getting upset, it's for a reason. And there have been times that I've kind of lit him up a little bit and let him understand where I was coming from. But I always came back again, said, listen, I'm going to apologize for this, you know, for this conversation or whatever we had. But, you know, here's kind of where I'm coming from on it. And I stand by what I said, but I'm just upset that I took it out on you. Boom. And again, that's only been like a couple times in 7 years. Road assistance, very helpful. As a matter of fact, my road assist person's been coming through. I've had the raggediest fucking trailers lately. Another reason why I dropped that shit back off of the terminal. I've been dealing with so many fucking raggedy trailers lately, like wheel blowouts and all this stuff, and insides of trailers just jacked up. Like, I think my wife knows how many raggedy trailers I've had than I have. She brought up a couple. But that last run that I came out, the last time I came off of home time, it was like, I've never been on a stretch with that many bad trailers. So not only was it bad weather, bad trailers on top of it. Tar Heel is bad. Yep. Yeah, 412. Ernest was the driver that I was talking about. And funny thing about it, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but when Ernest was upgrading, Slime Pack was upgraded at the same time, and I had to go in for a logs class. So we were all three sitting next to each other. I didn't sit next to Ernest because I knew him, and Slime Pack didn't sit next to me because she knew me or anything. It just happened to be where we were sitting. And didn't really say anything to each other, to be honest with you. Thank God the JBS in Greeley is on strike. That is probably one of the worst to go to. Them Amazon drivers be flooring it. Yeah. Does Prime pay for orientation if a driver has a CDL already? I don't know about that. All right, I don't think you could change a dispatcher before a certain time at Prime. If I really wasn't doing good with my dispatcher, I don't care what the rules would be. I would either force that change and either be able to change it, or I'm not hanging around in a bad situation. So I'd be out. I'm one of these people that, and luckily I haven't been in this situation, but if I was doing bad, I'm going to change up shit. If my revenue wasn't right because I was going to the Northeast, I stopped going to the Northeast. If my revenue was bad because I was driving 8.5 hours and always like, something's going to change. And if it got to the point where I think the dispatcher and they don't allow me to change dispatchers, then I just have to go. All right, 313. I love going on Prime uncensored and talking shit. Yeah, some of the people in that group, some of the shit that people complain about, really makes no sense. And I would say, my experience at Prime, if I was to think back to what I thought it was going to be like, I would say overall, it's been a 9 out of 10. If I was to rate Prime, 9 out of 10 in comparison to what I thought it was going to be before I got here. Now, there are certain things at Prime that I absolutely just think make no sense. And I think that Prime would run smoother if they did do things, like easy things, a little bit different. Like, for example, why am I tying up a phone line dealing with a live load call when I've been at Prime for 7 fucking years? Like, that to me, that's wasted manpower, time, whatever. Waste that time on new drivers. You know what I mean? Like, you're being very inefficient, babying all the drivers when only 35 or 40% or whatever may need the babying. I know when I know when I look at bills and I say, okay, maybe I do need to have this conversation or something like that. I think they waste a bit of time on that. A lot of it's just the procedures and stuff like that. But outside of that, if somebody was to say, how's the money going? I'd say the money's going great. I could probably make a whole lot more money if I didn't take as much fucking time off. I don't think before I came to Prime, I would have been like, okay, I'll have a truck, paid off trucks or, whatever. I don't think I would have ever assumed that. But the fleet manager, I think, is the key. I talk to people that have different fleet managers, and everybody's fleet manager has weaknesses, strengths, whatever. And some fleet managers, like, I'll see the text. They'll send me the text. Here's my fleet manager said, and I was like, I cannot even imagine that coming out of my fleet manager's mouth. But that fleet manager answers the phone all the time, which I never, like, if I call my fleet manager, he's not answering the phone. So that's, so there's pluses and minuses. But as a whole, I think my fleet manager is like the perfect fit for me. Like, he's not the type to be saying no slick shit. Like, I think some of these fleet managers say some slick shit to drivers, and then the drivers, most drivers that are younger, that's another thing. I'll get to that in a second. You get some of these young ass drivers that, they say that your brain's not fully, developed until you're like late 20s or whatever. And this is a fact. The younger you are, the more emotional you look at things, and you get into these like little pissing matches and stuff. Like, a couple bad interactions can basically determine your relationship for the next couple of few years potentially, or even the entire time you're there. My fleet manager is not like that. Very kind of, now it doesn't work with everybody. There's somebody on here right now that maybe wasn't doing all that well with my fleet manager, but for my personality, things work well. So I'm not sure I would still be at Prime if I was in some of these other situations that I see come up. And shout out to the young truck drivers out there. That's one thing I did want to talk about. I could not even imagine being a truck driver when I was like 23, 24, 25. Like, I think about some of the situations I've been in. Now, money would be more of an issue if I was that young too. So I'd have to factor that in. But at that age, like if I'd have came to trucking right after I got out of the Marines, let's say 22, 23, whatever, and shippers and receivers, or, let's say a fleet manager did, or a trainer, if I was going through training, like I held my tongue with my first trainer. Like if I was 22, 20, like I was cussing motherfuckers, like I was going off at that age. Like I would cuss somebody out in a heartbeat. It could have been a shipper, it could have been a fleet manager, it could have been a trainer, it could have been whatever, because I wasn't thinking shit through at that age. It was like whatever feel like, man, it does feel good to cuss a motherfucker out. And at my age now, I've just realized, you know what? As good as it would feel to cuss this motherfucker out, it's not going to feel as good down the road. Is this my... I'm going to have to go check and see if that's... I don't think it's my... Hold on. Not my APU. Either old Frey Miller has a reefer over here that's squealing, or it's his APU. Let me turn on the truck real quick. Hey, but anyway, so I couldn't have been a truck driver in my younger days. One of the great things about you is you always respond to everyone's comments, and you talk true, and your videos could help people make up their mind about Prime Inc. It's all good. That's another pet peeve of mine, because this hasn't happened in a while, I think. But I'm not going to mention this person on YouTube. But anybody that's seen me, that's watched this video, if I'm on the phone, I could be on the phone with my wife or somebody else or whatever. If you walk up to my truck, or if I'm at a terminal eating or whatever, and you take the time to stop by me, I'm stopping whatever I'm doing and we're having that conversation. There was one time I was up at the terminal and I saw this person that used to think he still makes YouTube videos, not at Prime anymore. And I just stopped by just as a professional courtesy. I was just like, hey, what's going on, whatever. That motherfucker acted like I was like starstruck or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I actually try to take time to talk to people, not because I'm anything or anything like that, but if somebody's going to take the time out to stop and talk to me, I have more to gain from that situation than them. And a lot of the people that I learn from, and I'm not necessarily saying trucking wise, but I talk to so many people in here that I'm, talked to on the phone that I just met from coming up, or met from YouTube, or met wherever. And I get so much out of those interactions, whether it be going to different shippers or receivers, or more shit than I can express on this. And that's one good thing. I don't know if Slime Pack's in here, but shout out to Slime Pack. She always seems to, be like, it takes time to talk to people and stuff like that. I was just up at the terminal and somebody offered to take me to Walmart because they had their car up there. And I forgot, trucker or Burner D. He's on YouTube. He stopped by to say what's up when I was at the terminal. Like, the best thing about having a YouTube channel is the network that comes along with it. You know what I mean? It's always being able to be at a terminal and not feel like I'm alone. Is having a network of 40, 50 drivers, or how many people that I talk to on occasion, to where I could ask a certain question about a certain thing. Or somebody's having problems or their revenue's down. You know what? Let me talk to some other people and see what's up. So I could talk to 10 people right off the bat. Talk to 10 people right away. How much did you do last week? Boom, boom, boom. Well, here's what I'm seeing. Anyway, enough of that. .412 is talking about some of the benefits of being at Prime that he doesn't have working at a non-mega carrier, in terms of being able to help with some of the bills and discounts and stuff like that. He has gone through a ton of money. He needs a YouTube channel, is really what he needs. But he's one of those people, we don't necessarily talk about things that, you know what? Okay, so 412 does not work at Prime. When I say people helping me out and stuff like that, 3, 4, 5 months ago, we were on the phone. I was taking a load up to Maine or some shit like that, and we were talking about the route I was going to take, and he was like, nah, don't do that. They got construction. Take this route. And I not had a YouTube channel. Now, chances are I might have still caught that, but 100%, he at least made me think about that. So I probably ended up taking that route because of talking to him. I would not have been able to talk to him had I not had a YouTube channel. So anyway, have you heard of this new company, NSI? Now, I don't know about NSI, but I tell you what, Western Flyer Express is sitting next to me. And by the way, if you happen to be watching, you're from Western Express Trans Am, welcome. I was just up at the terminal. I don't know what IWX is. I know they're part of the holding company that has Western Flyer Express, but they probably got 25 brand new trucks up there at the terminal right now. All right, Slowpoke Trucking. I had 2 trainees under 25, both buying trucks and rolling strong. Ain't got time for drama. They're all about the Benjamins. Yeah, I've trained a bunch of younger drivers. All of them seemed to have their head on straight. I wouldn't have been able to do it, like I'm saying. All right, what's that sound that sounds like a video game when you start your truck? I've been sitting for almost 20 hours, so my truck had lost enough air to where it needed to, well, okay, it could have been two things. We were talking about the noise that sounds like, that's the lane departure system getting set up. The other sound could have been my truck airing up the transmission and all that. I'm not sure which one you were referring to. Biggs, Mr. Biggs, does your truck have fridge, microwave, etc.? I have a microwave and I got a freezer, like a chest freezer, and a refrigerator. I don't do the pans and air fryers. I can't do the truck smelling like bacon and all that shit back. I can't do that. So As a matter of fact, I got this little salad here. I'll be eating later on. I have it sitting in some olive oil and apple cider. I bought this apple cider vinegar, this honey and cayenne pepper. I'm trying to do a lot more of that. I need to cut some of this weight. This trucking weight. But no, I just use a microwave or whatever. Back when I was a young buck, I remember getting some swag from one of my favorite YouTube personalities. Slowpoke, if you're talking about them pair of nice ass John Deere gloves. As a matter of fact, I got a pair of these John Deere gloves right here ready to go. I'm about to throw away my pair next time when I'm at the Walmart and I disconnect my trailer. That's gonna be the last time I use I had to slum it for a while because I forgot to bring some, I think I ordered some of these just to see what they were about. But anyway. So yeah, when Slowpoke was going through training at Prime, I ran into him at the terminal and I had an extra pair of John Deere gloves and gave it to him. Back when all right. I want to All right, let me see if I understand. I want to thank you. I bought 2 flats for 500,000, and I know a friend that gave me a deal on it. Now I've got it fixed up because they both had electrical issues. Cost me about 1,500. I don't know exactly what that. Elaborate on that a little bit more. How long do I stay out before home time? It kind of depends, right? I'm sort of the opposite of some people. The chances of me going home sooner would be if I'm having a bad run. So if I come out here and shit's not going right or the revenue's not where whatever, I would probably have a better chance of coming back sooner than if things were going well. What I'd like to say is I'd like to stay out 5 weeks. And then the way I do it, because I'm not going to get ran to death. You got people wanting to run you to death. No. If I stay out, the way I calculate my home time is 2 days off for every week that I'm out, plus a half a day for the inconvenience of living on a truck. So if I'm out 5 weeks, that's 5 times 2. That's 10 days right there, minimum. Well, no, that's 10 days plus a half a day for every week. So that's another 4.5, one or no. So that's a minimum 13 days. Plus, I'll usually take off a little bit longer than that, depending. Like I took off like 25 days or something like that this last time. That was just because I didn't want to be dealing with this goddamn weather. So usually, if somebody was to ask me, I would like to plan on staying out 5 weeks and taking off 2 weeks. That's roughly the way I would like doing it. All right, so Sons of Atlas. Okay, so it has paid off trucks and profits of all 4 trucks is $10,000 a month. Okay, that's good. All right, good to go. IWX supposedly merged with Western Flyer. Yeah, the holding company that bought Western and Flyer Express owns that company as well. So I'm not sure if it was a merger between those two or more, that they're under the same umbrella. All right, Slowpoke's talking about these gray gloves I got. Yeah. Plus, they're like a little bit, I don't know. All right, Slowpoke. Speaking of networking, I got a free fridge from one of your former employees, all because we were having dinner with a few friends. So I'm saying networking is everything. I tried to give away 2 pair of shoes up at the terminal. Nobody took me in, nobody took me up on that offer. I got 2 pair of brand new Merrell trail shoes that I'm still, it's harder giving away shit than selling it. I swear to God. Ex-barber turned trucker G. Speaking of which, I did bring my clippers out here, so I probably won't be picking my hair with the pick that 412 got me. All right, Slowpoke is out. Grandkids baseball game is on live feed. All right. Anyway, shit, I'm about to get off here too. How long have I been on here? Hour and 31 minutes. But yeah, just people that just came in. So I had somebody criticize me saying that trucking's not the career for me because I brought a truck or trailer back to the terminal and gave up that load because I cut my losses. I think that's smart. It served me well in every industry I was in before this. So he spoke about that a little bit. Trainers out here letting students down. Spoke about that a little bit. And that's kind of that. Those of you guys just came in. I'm out here at the Loves in Paws Valley, Oklahoma, I-35, exit 70. Dropping off here in about, my appointment's at 4 p.m. I'll get there about 3, something like that. But that's pretty much it. I just went live because somebody's like, I'm gonna be driving all night tonight and need something to listen to. So if you happen to be watching this, there's an hour and 30 minutes for you right there. But I'm about to get off of here. I appreciate you guys stopping by. No Hippie Trucking Transportation. I'm out.